Hey everybody, week 7, judges. Let's talk about the key points. First off, the powers of a judge are kind of overrated. Um, they have a lot of responsibility within the courtroom and within the system, but they're not the defining end all that some people think. Um, Generally act as a coordinator, a referee, legal advisor. We'll talk about duties in a minute, but that's kind of where you see judges at. They have the trappings of office, the symbol of justice, the black robes, the bench. If you ever go to federal court, and hopefully it's to observe and nothing else, usually the bench is set really high, so you're looking up at the judge. The idea of everybody standing up, all rise, when the judge comes into the courtroom, very intimidating, and it gives that feeling of being, the person that is totally in charge. And I think these are the things, though, that cause people to misinterpret the overall influence of the judge on the process. Becoming a judge is a capstone of a legal career. You've got to be a politician, you got to be a lawyer, to get the job and maintain your position there. In most states, it's fairly well paid. In California, it's a well paid job. Perhaps not in some of the smaller counties, but in the larger counties, LA County, Orange County, they get paid pretty well. In some areas of the country, it's a spoils system kind of approach, to where if a judge is elected or is appointed, then there's going to be jobs that he can fill with clerks and his other staff that has a chance for some level of scrutiny. So, a judge's job, though, is very busy. It's a work-intensive job. It's a paperwork-intensive job. Very heavy caseload. And although assembly line justice helps move things along, it also puts tremendous pressure on judges to get things out. Criminal law judges, a little bit lower prestige than higher end civil judges. In the courtroom, lots of monotony. I mean, when you go into court, if you have a chance, go in, sit, watch some proceedings, law in motion, or even calling the calendar. A lot of it is monotonous. It's the same thing over and over again. So those are two key points. One, the brief introduction. Second, frustration. Let's talk about a third. And what do? Well, judges, I'm so sorry. Judges judge. What I mean by that is they run trials. During the trial, they act as an umpire. They make complex discretionary decisions. And that would be on whether or not a piece of evidence is admissible, whether or not a statement by a defendant or an out-of-court statement by somebody else, that a party to the action is admissible. So really complex decisions, and then verdicts in bench trials. And make sure you remember the difference between a bench trial and a jury trial. Really important part. The other things that judges do is they negotiate. They negotiate case management decisions, trying to avoid delay. They negotiate settlements. They get involved in the plea bargaining process. What usually happens in that is that the court will open at 10 in the morning. They will call the court calendar, and people that are there will answer. If it's a pre-trial hearing day, well, that's kind of another cool word for plea bargaining negotiations. And attorneys will line up one behind the other and go into the judge's chambers, and there'll be some quick negotiations. Some judges take complete control of it and will basically tell everybody what the sentence is going to be, and then they can decide if they're going to take it or if they're going to have a trial or how that's going to work. I used to help an Orange County DA on his pretrial hearing days, and I had a really big part in that. I would go through the person's criminal record, determine whether or not they were amendable for diversion in drug cases. So we sit in this judge's chambers, and he's just saying, okay, this case, 15 months suspended, this and that. And finally, the DA that I was working with turns to me and says, we really don't even need to be here. And which was pretty funny at the time. And then sentencing. That's the negotiation part. Drafting. So a judge judges, negotiates, and drafts, meaning he writes opinions. He'll research legal opinions. And one of the things that you'll do if you're going to go to law school is you'll learn how to write legal opinions, how to draft some documents. Really important part. Once you get your ticket, pass the bar, if you go to work for a firm, you're going to be doing that kind of stuff. Legal research and writing opinions for senior partners or for other people in the firm that are more experienced than you are. Then drafting the conclusion on decisions on law and motion. So that would be defense files a motion to suppress on a particular piece of evidence. Well, the judge will decide in the judging as to the admissibility of the item, and then we'll draft an opinion which will stay with it, become part of the record. So when it goes to appeal, there will be some record of what was thought, what was researched, kind of the basic cases that were used. Counsel. Judges will counsel attorneys, give them help on issues. The cops, many cops become acquainted with judges, and if there's been a search warrant issue or some other potential sticky legal problem, they may go directly to a judge and get some counsel. And then, of course, the jurors. The judge will counsel jurors on the law and how what the rules are. And then lastly, they administer. They're administrators. They manage the court docket, where cases are going, where they're standing in line. If they're going to go to trial, they will start to work with the chief judge's office in a particular court so that a courtroom can be found. And that can be really tough, especially if you have a lot of cases, and even if a small amount are going through. Imagine what's a plea bargain take. You go to the arraignment. That's 5-10 minutes. You come, and then during that, the pretrial motion, during the arraignment, the next court date is given. Come back on that court date for a pretrial hearing, and it could be plea bargained. You go from the judge's office, 5 minutes, into the courtroom. They call the case. Judge reads Sixth Amendment rights to trial. the defendant waives those rights, and then a sentence is imposed. So, I mean, plea bargain, if you put all of it together, although it takes a few weeks, can be done in less than an hour. Talk about a trial. Now, some trials are one-day trials, pretty rare, but they can go for a long time. And that whole time, that courtroom is tied up, that judge is tied up, all of the other players within that courtroom are tied up, the bailiffs and court reporter and all of that. So those are the things that a judge does. How do you get to be a judge? Well, on the federal level, you're appointed by the president. You're confirmed by the Senate. Your appointment is for life. And federal judgeships are pretty highly sought after. Since they're appointed by the president, and especially now in this particular portion of American history, you're going to see very polarized judge selections, whether it was the past administration or the current administration or the next administration. Those will be polarized, and then those seats, you may move from that into the appellate court, but that's a pretty big step from the trial court to the appellate court. Let's talk about states really quick. States, usually it's an elected official, term 6 to 8 years. It can be a partisan or a nonpartisan election. Running as a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or just running as a candidate for judge. But let's be honest. Think back to the last time you voted for a judge. I would bet of all the people in the class, probably nobody knew any of the judge candidates. And if you voted for a judge, you voted based on name, on the order that it was in on the ballot, or maybe after you took the time to read the stuff, the statements by the candidates, and you made a decision based on that. Maybe whatever their current position is. Let's say they're a defense attorney. Okay, then you know something about the ideology of that person. They're a prosecutor. You know something about their ideology. And then you can make your choice based on that ideology. The other route in states, frequent route is appointment by the governor. And what happens is the state gets, will go and will send out a list of people that are interested in becoming a judge. Maybe they'll be interviewed by the governor, more than likely by the governor's staff, and the governor will make an appointment. Again, based more and more, it's based on ideology. You could see that in the courts of the first terms of Jerry Brown, and the direction of the court, and then with Pete Wilson, Schwarzenegger, you could see a shift in your judges. And the last way is what's known as the Missouri Plan, and it's a merit-based, where judges are reviewed 6 to 8 years and are either replaced with a new person or that person is selected on merit, from a vacancy, whether it's retirement, death, or any number of things may happen. Appointment to an appellate court, appointment to the federal bench, all of that. Those things could very well be involved there. Okay, so that is. Let me count them here. 1, 2, 3. You got like 4 big learning areas, and hopefully this will work for you as far as how we set this this video up. In any event,